Hello, Guitar Smarts fans. Before you check out this podcast, I want to make you aware of a cool new place where you can interact with other Guitar Smarts listeners. It's a Facebook group called the Guitar Geek Hangout. That's where we hang out and talk about all things guitar. So, if you like the Guitar Smarts podcast, come and chat with Kieran and myself over in the Guitar Geek Hangout on Facebook. Maybe check out some pre-podcast clips and even get involved in asking and answering lots of questions from the other page dwellers. Hope to see you there. I'm interested in buying this for sure, potentially this, but I'm trying to figure something else out about another guitar, and that's what I want to do. Can you help me? And he was like, yes, of course. So I was kind of like, I was trying to do it quickly as well, right? So I was trying.
It's a process to be enjoyed. You should have spend the whole life, literally try every guitar in the shop, get them to make you coffee, bring you some pastries. Think about you're just like, I'm going in hard, and we're coming out with something.
I only had 2 hours on the paying display, so that was part of it as well. Oh, such a northerner. Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Guitar Smarts podcast. We are back. It's been a while. Kieran and I both had some family holidays during the Easter break, and we've had a really busy schedule in our working lives as well. But we're back on track recording, and this is the first episode back after a little break. And this week, what are we talking about? Well, for the first time in a long time, I have bought some new guitars. So this week I am bringing you up to date and letting you know what those guitars are and talking about the process of buying them and where I went to get them and why I got them and trying them out and the experience that I had. And I'm over the moon with both guitars and can't wait for you to find out more about them. Remember to come and follow us on our social media pages. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Those are the best places to chat to us as well. So if you've got any ideas for podcasts or questions you want to ask, come and reach out to us there. If you want to support the show, the best thing you can do is leave us a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But there are links on how to do that in the description below. So have a look there. And if you did want to contribute to the running of the show, you can maybe buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Guitar Smarts. Or you can have a look at our merchandise store over on Etsy, which you can find a link to in the description below as well. Anyway, since it's been a while, let's get right back to it. Enough waffle from me. Here we go. Let's get cracking then.
Let's get cracking.
How are you doing, mate? Are you well? It's been a month. It's been about a month. 8th of April last time we recorded.
It feels like longer, buddy. I've missed it so much. We've both been crazy busy with work stuff outside of work. But lots has happened. Lots has happened to catch up on. Do you know what? You're going to have to keep me in check today because I don't even know where to begin. But let's start by the fact that you have a new backdrop behind you that I can see.
I know. Can you believe it? After everything we talked about, I still can't believe it. I'm still in shock. I went out last weekend and bought 2 guitars. What is going on in the world?
I don't even want to talk. Do you know what? I don't even want to talk about it because I still feel really sick in my stomach. Because I missed it, right? I missed it. And we've spoken about for a number of months, probably, your general aversion to guitar shops, of which is completely irrational, makes no sense whatsoever, but seems to be something that you're gonna, you were gonna require some deep therapy for. I genuinely didn't think I would see you in a guitar shop this year, even though you said you were going to buy a guitar this year to celebrate your milestone birthday. So I thought, okay, well, we had a date in the diary, which I was greatly looking forward to. And then selfishly, my lovely wife decided to surprise me with a weekend away. And of course, I'd forgotten to tell her about our planned guitar shop visit. And got caught up with the fact that she was taking me away for a weekend, and then realized that it clashed. And then realised also that we couldn't reschedule this because you had got yourself to a point where you were going to a guitar shop,
exactly.
and that in itself, right? We couldn't mess with that, so I had to just had to let you go. I just had to let you go on your own.
I was riding a wave of like, I'm going to do this. I almost didn't. I almost didn't.
Are you serious?
Genuinely, on the drive from home to Guitar Village, where I decided to go and do the shopping, I almost kind of went.
Did you?
Yeah, I almost turned around and was like,
what was the emotion? What was the thinking behind that? Were you thinking? I don't know. What were you thinking? Why?
I just didn't know if I was doing the right thing. I didn't know, because I knew I was going there to kind of, it wasn't like I'm just going to go and have a noodle around on some guitars. I was, I had a plan, to get these guitars, or at least a guitar. And I was just kind of, I don't know, I just had apprehension about it. I was kind of like, what if I'm just doing this for the sake of doing it? And I don't really, am I really going to connect with these instruments? And then I thought, what if I really connect with them and then decide that I can't, and then I feel even worse? It might not be worth doing this at all. You know what I mean? I started getting this kind of unrational.
I have no idea what you mean.
Process.
Literally, I have no idea.
I'm sure a lot of
I cannot relate to this.
Like, what's he on about? Just go and buy a guitar.
Exactly.
But I'm very, I can't. I struggle rationalizing it, because I'm kind of like, who needs guitars? I'm a guitarist, but I'm also, why do I need guitars? I have guitars. Why do I need more? So
this is true. I mean, this is true to a point, right? But anyone that's heard you play will just go, you deserve all the guitars in the world, mate. You're a monster. and you're very, very, very humble with that, far too humble with that. And if anyone deserves guitars, it's you. And, you're not being, you don't spend your money like on a whim that often, or on yourself that often. And
no, I really don't. Actually,
you'd done your research. You'd figured out what you were looking to go and get. You were going to keep an open mind, and you were going to try them out. And if they spoke to you, so anyway, you shouldn't. Well, I am glad you went through with it, because what you have ended up with, buddy, is not one but two guitars.
Two guitars, which I'm. I got to take you through, the story, because it was an interesting visit. And I wasn't there for a huge amount of time. I was only there for just over an hour. I mean, I literally went in. Wow. I literally walked through the door, and a guy said to me, can I help you? And I was like, yes, I'm here to try this and this and this out. Yeah. I'm interested in buying this for sure, potentially this, but I'm trying to figure something else out about another guitar, and that's what I want to do. Can you help me? And he was like, yes, of course. So I was kind of like, I was trying to do it quickly as well, right? So I was trying.
It's a process to be enjoyed. You should spend the whole life, literally try every guitar in the shop, get them to make you coffee, bring you some pastries. Think about you're just like, I'm going in hard, and we're coming out with something.
I only had 2 hours on the paying display, so that was part of it as well. Oh, such a northerner. Anyway,
you are. Spend £1.60 on parking. I'm not spending any more than that. I'm going to go and spend £1,000 on guitars, but I'm not spending another 20p to take me up to 3 or 4 hours on the parking meter.
Maximum 2 hours across the road.
Jeez.
And in Farnham councillors, if you're listening, please get some kind of Ringo or contactless parking situation going on. Nobody carries change anymore. Crikey. Yeah. Anyway, so went into the shop, and for our listeners, if you look at our social media, there is a picture of me holding these two guitars that I've purchased. But what I walked away with was number one was the guitar I've been wanting for years now, for about 6 years. So I tried this out in Guitar years ago, and it was just when Lucy and I had Daniel, our little boy, and I couldn't. She said even then, she was like, "Buy it if you want it." Yeah, and I've got to say, I've got to give credit to my wife here, because I'm very lucky that I have a wife who's kind of like, get things. If you think you deserve it, you deserve it. You work hard. I don't have that kind of. I don't have a wife who's kind of one in, one out. You've got to stop buying things. I'm very lucky like that. It's me that has the problem spending my money. It's daft, isn't it? But anyway, so she was kind of like, and I just thought, no, we've just had a child, I don't want to go spending, hundreds of pounds on a guitar, and but I always still wanted it, and I kind of went into Guitar Village and thought, this isn't the same. It's the same model guitar, but it's not that guitar,
right? And we've spoken around that before, right? You know, guitars vary. That one may have spoken to you. If you would it still speak to you if you tried it in a different store.
Exactly. Yeah. So fortunately, it was every bit as magic as the one that I tried out all that time ago. I mean, just a beautiful guitar to play, stunning finish, flawless, you know, in terms of its condition. Sounds fantastic. Sounds great acoustically, actually. Much easier to play than the look of it might suggest. You know, a guitar with a big speed, quite a big body. Still very comfortable and easy to play. And just sounds absolutely gorgeous. Those broad Tron pickups, which are meant to be like a Filtertron type pickup, but with a bit more of a humbuckery sound. Just sounds so nice, so clear and full. And so I fell in love with it again immediately. Right? But I wanted to do this experiment, which was I wanted to just try and understand, because this is something we've talked about a lot before, about kind of the law of diminishing returns when you're spending more on your instruments, right? Yeah. And I noticed whilst I was looking online before doing this visit that a Guitar Village have got a range of guitars in by Eastman, which kind of a lesser known brand. They make their guitars in Beijing, but they're handmade by a small kind of crew of people. So it's not kind of like your normal, you know, industrial production line. They're still handmade guitars, taking benefit from, you know, the cost of manufacture out in Beijing, but still very well trained luthiers. And Eastman also have like a history and a heritage of making violins and that kind of instruments. Right. So carved tops and, you know, those kind of semi-acoustic instruments are really their thing. And you can pick up one of their basic models for around $1,000, and a couple of others that are relatively kind of cost effective, but still really beautiful guitars for about $1,200, which is basically double the price of that Gretsch. That Gretsch was like just under £600. So I was kind of like, those are really beautiful guitars. I want to go and feel and hear what £600 extra feels like. I want to know if my money's better spent, because considering, you know, it's just under £1,000 basically is what I was looking to spend if I was going to get two guitars. I was thinking it's not that big a jump for me to go to potentially get a good deal on something around £1,200. Is it really going to be worth it?
Exactly.
And I got to say, no. I mean, I tried the Eastman out for about 10 minutes and I thought, I cannot feel £600 difference here between the Gretsch and the Eastman. But what I can tell you that blew me away about the Eastman is the fretwork on it. It wasn't like 22 frets. It was like 22 thin mirrors. You know what I mean? The fretwork was stunning, but the finish, the feel, the general kind of playability of it, I honestly didn't really notice any difference between that and the Gretsch. So I kind of thought either the Gretsch is really this good or this kind of price range in the market is really not worth looking at unless you're going a couple of grand upwards, right?
I think you're right. I think
it's interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting. I mean, for one, it shows you. I was having this conversation with somebody else who's just starting out guitar. He's a drummer, and he's getting into bass and getting into guitar. And he was purchasing his first kind of instruments, and he ended up with a brand that we've spoken about on the show before, Sire. So he bought himself one of the basses and was looking at one of the acoustics as well. And he was like, I couldn't believe the quality of what you can get nowadays for a modest price. And we had this whole conversation that you and I have had on the show. I mean, I think that price point that you're looking at, that £500 to £600, so kind of around $700-800 mark. It's a real sweet spot, because that is definitely no longer a kind of cheap instrument. You can get guitars for much cheaper than that, but you're making a compromise on elements of it. I don't think you're making any compromises in that price point anymore. And I think then to go up to the next level, where you're then starting to look at nitrocellulose finishes, you're starting to look at, heavy hitting brands that command like a hefty price tag, like the Gibsons and things. And we've chatted about whether they're worth the price tag, but you need to be spending a lot more. You need to be spending about 3 to 4 times more, where you go, okay, this feels something different again and has another vibe to it. I think you made the right call. And Gretsch is a lovely name to have on the headstock of your guitar, right? I mean, as snobby as it sounds. I've tried some of these Eastmans myself. Yeah, they're very well made. They're very nice guitars. Again, they're not cheap, but for the quality of woods they're using, the quality of finish that you're getting, and the overall spec, you're getting a good amount of guitar for good money. But not many people are going to, not that we care about this per se, but, if you can spend £600 less and get a Gretsch that you're incredibly happy with, I think that's a better instrument perhaps to have in your collection.
If you've made it this far, maybe you should subscribe to the Guitar Smarts podcast. Go and do that now, and then let's carry on as soon as you get back. Yeah, I think, I'll sum it up for you. I don't think that Eastman isn't worth the money you pay for it. Okay. But I think guitars are like the Gretsch, around that £600 mark, are really punching above their weight. I think that's really what I'm not saying a £600 guitar and a £1,200 guitar, there aren't really any different. I think that kind of, sub £1,000 market is so fertile and rich with great guitars at the moment from people like Cort and Gretsch, and Gretsch do some very good expensive custom shop guitars too, obviously, but that Streamliner and Electromatic range, and this is an Electromatic that I've got, that's a really great range of guitars. So some manufacturers are really knocking it out of the park in that range. I think it's difficult for some other businesses to compete, actually, if they're not as big and as kind of capable. But I'd say, if you're listening to this, go and check them out. Go and check out some of those Gretsch Streamliner and Electromatic guitars. I think you'd be pleasantly surprised at how good they are for the money. I mean, there's some of a kind of 335 size guitars that they do in the Streamliner range that are sub £500, which are beautiful to look at. Kind of like, Salt Bar P90s and, Bigsby's again, and some really nice adornments. They're just really making some lovely guitars. Well worth a look. But it didn't end there. So
that's guitar number one. That's dream guitar number one of the last 6 years. So as well as not getting to join you on this, my own fault entirely. I now longer know I don't have the pleasure now of being able to send you pictures of that guitar every time I see it in a guitar shop and taunt you with it, because you've got it now, it's done. So I'm going to have to find something else to send you pictures of when I'm out and about. But I'm really pleased you bought that one, because I know beforehand we've been chatting on the messages before you went down that day. And you did say, I may just go for something completely different. I'm going to go and see what speaks to me. And I thought, good for you. That's exactly the right way to do it. And then a small part of me thought, but I do hope you end up getting that Gretsch and it speaks to you in the way that it did before. So it did. So that's amazing. We're going to come back to it in a bit, but just because I want to ask you about some of the things to do with setup and stuff. But let's go to the next guitar. You bought another one.
So I was kind of like. It's just funny. This is the way guitarists think, right? So I was thinking to myself, this was when I was considering the Eastman, right? I was thinking, do you know what? I could go to that. I could stretch for the Eastman around £1,000 if it really speaks to me. And if it doesn't, I'll just go for the Gretsch. And then in my mind, something went, well, if you go for the Gretsch, but you could afford the Eastman, what other guitars could you buy with the money left between how much the Gretsch costs and the Eastman costs?
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? It started becoming like, it was kind of like a mathematical trick I played on myself to say, you've still got money to spend.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you had, right? It sounds like you'd mentally set yourself a budget of around £1,000.
Basically,
right? Which was, and then with a kind of guide that said, if something really spoke to you, maybe we could stretch a couple of hundred more, and that would be okay.
Yeah.
But the budget was a kind of around £1,000.
Basically,
so, you know, yeah. so then
like,
you have this £400 burning a hole in your pocket.
That's right, exactly that. So then I started looking through the website and was like, I wonder if there's anything around, you know, £200-300, maybe a little bit more, you know, that'll take my fancy. And one really did, a unique guitar, which is I love the Squire Classic Vibe range. That's been a really popular range for some time. Squire knocking it out of the park with that range of guitars. If anything, some people are saying that the Squire Classic Vibe range is as good and as well built as basically any of Fender's Mexican guitars.
I believe that.
But unless it was just unless it was something unique, I'd never really been that interested in the Classic Vibe range because they're just nice looking standard models. But one of the things that Guitar Village had was this Classic Vibe FSR, so Fender Special Run, which basically means it's a model that never really existed. So it's kind of like something that Fender would have never really done. This is meant to be like a Fender special run of something. Cool. And it is a 60s custom Esquire. So Fender obviously never made an Esquire in the 60s. But what this is basically is it's the Esquire, so it's a single pickup Telecaster style guitar, just a bridge pickup, but it's bound around it's double bound body. So it looks so cool.
It really
it's a
does.
double bound body, single pickup guitar, a Laurel fingerboard, not a Rosewood.
Oh, okay.
The Gretsch is Laurel fingerboard as well. And I've got to say, it's such a nice material to play. It looks really nice as well. But it's just such a cool looking guitar. Such a great looking guitar. And I thought, I've got to try that because I do like a telly. I've not actually played that many tellies I've really loved. A mate of mine, Owen Log, who's a great bass player and a good friend, an old friend of mine from ACM, he owns the only Telecaster I've ever really fallen in love with, which is a Highway 1 Telecaster from about 2003 when that run of Telecasters was out. And that was when Fender did a run of Telecasters that were US made, but they were very kind of cost effective. You could pick them up for about £500 brand new. Wow. But they had a proper nitrocellulose finish, so they would wear down really easily. And he had one that was a blonde body, maple neck, and when I played it, he'd worn it down quite. So it was like playing a relic. Yeah. It was just a beautiful Telecaster. Even now to this day, I say to him, you know, if you ever want to sell that, I will buy it. And I thought, I'll try this Squire out in Guitar Village, and I kind of thought if it feels as nice to play as that does, I'll see if they'll do a deal. And clearly it did feel as good to play. It was just fantastic. I didn't know how I'd like the single pickup, but it just rocks. I mean, it's not too bright, and I like the wiring in it. So you still have a 3-way switch. Right. So in the bridge pickup position, you've got just the bridge pickup and the volume control. The tone is bypassed. In the middle pickup selection, the tone control comes into play. Okay. So you can kind of roll off the tone, and then you can change between bridge and middle. And then in the front pickup position, it bypasses the tone control again, but this time it brings in a fixed value capacitor, which is a tone capacitor. And then it's basically like having your tone all the way down, maybe even more. Actually, it's not a hugely usable
That's clever. Sound. So you have in effect got a few different sounds at the flick of a switch,
but it's all off one pickup.
That's clever. That's really good.
Yeah, and I guess the thought is that one of the reasons why people say they love single pickup instruments is that they're saying that obviously even if you don't have a neck pickup selected, that magnet is still having an effect on the strings, still pulling at the strings. So now they're saying you get the most out of your strings, the vibration of the guitar of a single pickup instrument, because it's only the one pickup that's having effect on the strings, and that pickup's always in play. Yeah. So, but anyway, I tried it through a little Fender amp in there, and it just absolutely rocks. I mean, it's just such a nice guitar to play. It's so comfy, lightweight. The neck on it's quite thin. It's probably the thinnest neck of the guitars I've got. I just thought, this is just such a killer guitar. This is going to be so much fun. And then in my mind, I was like, ooh, I could have a Strat. I've got a Les Paul, a little Telly. I've got the Gretsch as well. And then I was kind of like, right, we need to do a deal. Need to get the price right. Yes. And see what they can do. And they did me a great deal. They met me where I wanted to be met. And good. Threw in about, actually, do you know what? Guitar Village, credit to them, they threw in about 70 quid's worth of stuff as well. Nice. Of guitar stands and cables, stuff that's kind of high margin for them. I'm sure it's not a huge cost, but to me as a purchaser, that's quite a lot of stuff. And they price matched everywhere online that I found that worked out cheaper. They were such a pleasure to deal with in every way. Really, really courteous, helpful, and I didn't want to go online and buy these guitars, go and try them, and just go, well, I'll get them cheaper online, because you want to support these shops that put the effort in, and you want to buy from people and not just from some kind of machine online that just automatically tells someone in a warehouse to ship something. And
I agree.
I'm happy that I got a great deal and still managed to support this great store.
I'm so pleased they looked after you as well. It's a store I've used for many, many years. But I think that is the beauty of buying from any good guitar shop, right? Is one, it's an experience, right? You've been able to go in, you've been able to try different instruments, you've been able to make your selection in an informed way, compare and A/B different guitars and go, should I get this? Should I get that? Well, let me try it. You can't do that with an online purchase. You've got a returns window if you don't like it, and you get it, and then if you like it, great, you keep it. If you don't, you return it. But you can't go, okay, well, I tried out 4 different models of tellies, and but you can do that in a guitar shop. But then they will look after you in other ways, right? By bundling in stuff, doing you a good deal, you can have a conversation with them about it. It's a much richer experience. And when you're spending that kind of money on guitars, you want to be trying them out individually and making that choice in that way. So, mate, that's awesome. That telly, I love it. I just love the look of it as well, man. It just, I don't know what it is about it. It's just something that just says, when you look at a guitar and you go, it's saying pick me up and play me.
Oh, it does. Exactly.
Yeah, I totally get it.
It really does. It's just a cool little rock machine, single pickup. Yeah. So simple. It sounds great. But I can't wait to gig them. I need to bring them down. We need to do a jam night. We've been talking another thing we haven't done. We need to go to the jam, don't we?
Friend of the show and upcoming guest, Matthew Lake, who joined us for the Day in the Life of a Guitar Teacher episode. If you haven't listened to that one, listeners, go check it out. He and I were messaging just yesterday, and he said, when are you guys going to come to the jam night? He's like, we need to get you and Matt to the jam night. When is this happening? So we're getting pressure now. We're getting pressure. Yeah. So we need to get that date in the diary.
Let's get that in the diary, because I'm eager to do that too.
Yeah,
because basically after this weekend I have no gigs in the diary. So jam nights are going to be the thing. We need to get it done.
All right, perfect. We'll do that. You can bring both your new guitars.
Hang on a minute. Come on. Steady on. Not Joe Bonamassa.
Just turn up with a flight case of guitars.
I know.
I'm here to play.
Yeah, I know.
Brilliant. So, in terms of setup and things, what was your experience trying out the guitars there? I mean, and these two, any tweaks, any adjustments you want to make to them, anything.
So I've already set up the Telecaster. I've already done the 8 steps, that we've spoken about previously. The Telecaster came with 9s on it, and they were pretty old, I think. Trying it, that was the only thing when I was trying it out. I was kind of like not particularly comfortable with the strings, but I love in general how the guitar feels. So when I got the guitar home, I put a new set of Ernie Ball 10s on it. I cleaned the frets and oiled the fretboard. It just did everything basically. Check the height of the string. The action on it is beautiful. I may, if I do kind of catch up with you at a jam, I'll bring it. I may want your opinion on the nut height. Part of me feels like the nut might be ever so slightly too high. But I don't really know. I'm not confident enough in adjusting that myself.
I can give you a tip on how to check that in a second. Yeah,
that'd be cool if you give us a tip, because it's not. I don't think it's ruining any playability, but I just curious as to whether or not it might be a bit high around the first fret. But after doing that kind of basic setup on it, a new set of strings, oil the fretboard, give it a good polish, and checked everything over, it's just sublime. Just feels so great to play. The Gretsch, I haven't set up yet, but again, feels really, really just beautiful to play straight out of the box. The setup on it out of the box is wonderful in terms of the action, the intonation.
Great.
The tuning stability on it is not perfect. When I change the strings, I'll obviously when I clean the fretboard, and which I'll probably do tonight, I'll be lubricating all the contact points.
That's it.
But I think that's also part of the fact that it's a Bigsby, right?
Exactly.
It's a Bigsby guitar. I'm always going to have a little bit of tuning stability issues because of that type of tremolo system. But I don't really care, I mean, that's it's
got a Bigsby on it.
It's got a Bigsby. I've got a guitar with a Bigsby on it.
You need to start shopping at Waitrose now. That's
true. Actually,
you're in that league. Only the elite aristocrats have guitars with Bigsbys on that. That's crazy. I don't have a guitar with a Bigsby on it now. What? This is insane.
It's insane. Yeah.
So tuning stability, to any guitar with a trem to some extent, but exactly as you said, make sure you get that locking winding on the string peg, tuning peg. And generally speaking, when they string them up at the factory, they don't do that. They just string them through and wind on. So properly making sure that string is locked off through the kind of knotting technique that you can use at the tuning peg will help, and then lubricate all of the contact points as well, including the nut and where it passes over the Bigsby and stuff, and that will massively help and stretch the strings, and you should be fine. And then checking that the nut is cut correctly as well can also massively help with tuning stability. But the way I would check, say for example on your telly, the nut height. So the nut height is probably the second to last thing that I do on a more advanced setup. So you want to make sure that your overall action is you're happy with at the bridge, and the amount of relief in the neck is exactly how you want it. The last thing you would do is intonation right at the end when everything's done. But once you're happy that the neck relief is right and the bridge action is how you want it to be, and your strings are all stretched in and everything, and before you do the intonation, then you should check what's going on at the nut. And the tip to check this, I mean, obviously you can use feeler gauges and you can measure against different guitars that you've got, and you can see how high you like your action to be at the first fret. But the best tip that I've always used is if you hold down on each string separately at about the fourth fret. Okay, so you're holding down at the fourth fret, and then what you're looking to do is you're looking to see how much of a gap there is now between the bottom of the string and the first fret.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So by pressing down at the fourth fret, that creates a very, short straight line of string between the nut contact point and the contact point on the fourth fret. And what you should be looking for is absolutely the narrowest margin of gap. Okay. At the first fret, and you got to get your eye really close up, and you got to press down there on the 4th fret, and you just want to see a little bit of bounce before it hits the 1st fret. If you can find that you've got like a half a mil up to like a 1 mil gap, and you're pressing down, and it's quite a way before you hit that 1st fret, your nut's cut way too high. Right. Okay. So when I'm cutting a nut, that's my constant check. Is I'm taking it out of the nut slot. Mm-hmm. I'm lowering it with the right sized file for that particular string gauge in the nut slot. I'm creating a slight back slope as I'm cutting, so that so it crosses over like a pivot point on the nut rather than just sitting flat in the nut. Yeah. It creates you create like another little break point in the nut. And I'm keeping the file very straight, so I'm not creating any grooves or ridges. It's one clean slot. But then I pop the string back into the nut slot, and I press down on the 4th, and then just look at that first fret, and you'll get your eye in quite quickly for this, and you'll realise how much you need to. The danger is if you're cutting those nut slots, just go little bit by little bit, because if you go too far, then you can't add
the material back on.
Well, you can, and I've done it many times, but it's a pain in the backside. So then what you need to use is some bone nut dust and super glue, and that creates a kind of composite. I mean, this is standard industry professional practice. It sounds like a bodge job, but it's not.
Nut dust.
I'm sorry, I just realised what I said. pull out your nut dust and glue. So that's it. Just to do that, and do it on the 6th string. Do it on the all the way through from your 6th string to your 1st string. Mm-hmm. Obviously, on your thicker strings, you're going to want a little bit more of a gap and a little bit more of a play. To allow that thicker string to reverberate without causing fret buzz, but you'll be able to tell. You'll be able to tell if you've got still quite a bit of travel before you hit that 1st fret when you're holding down at the 4th, then your nut slot's cut way too high.
Cool. Okay, I will do that check.
And can come down. And I tell you what, it is one of the most satisfying things to do when you get that nut cut properly. Really? In my honest opinion, it makes. I know they all make a difference. The relief on the truss rod makes a difference. The bridge makes a difference. But I guess what I'm trying to say is you will be surprised, because it doesn't just affect the playability at those 1st and 2nd frets. It affects it all the way up to, I would say, around the 7th, 8th fret.
I was going to say, because I was thinking, is this affecting the intonation of the guitar because I've got further to press the string down effectively?
Yes.
In a way, yes. I'm actually, by the time I'm fretting something at maybe the 2nd or the 3rd, I'm actually bending the string as well. Correct. In one way. So vital to have that absolutely correct then, I guess, isn't it?
Definitely.
Again, it just goes to show you, doesn't it? You can have a guitar that is, I mean, this wasn't an expensive guitar, this Squier Telecaster, but, with a really top setup on it, it's just, you can turn a guitar into a beast, can't you?
Completely. Somebody, I was having the same conversation with Matt, the drummer from my band, who's also a really keen guitarist and likes collecting guitars and things as well. So, and we were messaging each other backwards and forwards, as we often do, and he likes to look at guitars and stuff on eBay, very similar to conversations you and I have. And he's like, "What about this one? What about this one?" And he messaged me this picture of a guitar that was, by his own admission, a really, really cheap, potentially nasty guitar, right? And he said, he said on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being terrible and 10 being, amazing, is this literally a -5 on the scale? And I was like, Matt, there are no bad guitars. There are just guitars that need a good setup and and maybe some mods, but it's a massive oversimplification. Of course, there are some absolute dog turds out there, but the guitar he was saying, he was just like, look, you can mod this, that you could mod that and set it up, and it'll be absolutely fine. So
So the other thing I wanted to kind of just let you know is that I decided to retire the Les Paul after picking up these 2 guitars.
What does that mean?
So I'm not going to gig it anymore. I'm not going to.
Oh. I thought you were saying you were going to sell it.
No. It's way too. I mean, I was going to say that was 21st birthday present from my mum and dad. I'll never get rid of that Les Paul.
Right.
But I, you know, up until this weekend, the only two guitars I had were the Les Paul and the Strat. So I was always taking the Les Paul to gigs, but I won't anymore. What I will do though is it will get the setup of its life from you. Hopefully, the next time it can. It's going to get new pickups. It's going to get a full new wiring harness. It's just going to get fitted out for retirement, basically.
Nice.
Do you know what I mean?
It's ready to go to Florida. It's getting its hair done. It's getting a full bikini wax.
That's right.
It's going to the tanning salon.
That's it. It's going to get the kind of, you know, the retirement it deserves after 20 hard years of effort. But yeah, I'm probably not going to gig it again. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be admired and looked after. And I've got lots of cherished memories of playing that guitar. And of course, it's a very meaningful guitar to me sentimentally. So it's going to get looked after properly now. The Strat really is probably still going to be the number one guitar, basically because it's so versatile.
It's
and
a
the
Strat.
setup. Yeah, exactly. I've got it set up with the humbucker in it. And you know,
of course you have.
So it's super versatile for general gigging, but it's always going to be accompanied by either the Gretsch or the Telecaster for sure. The Esquire, should I say?
Damien and I had this conversation since our last recording, where I think we were talking about how many guitars do you need, or should you stop buying guitars? And he and I were talking about it the other day, and I said, I just recorded this episode with Matt Oliver around how many guitars you need and what do you really need to play. And he said, you just need a Strat with a humbucker in it, and that's it. And I was just like, that's exactly the conclusion we had. And literally, it was just like, it's depressing, isn't it? It's like we buy all these guitars and lust after these £4,000 PRS and loop guitars. It's like, all you need is a Strat with a humbucker in it, and that's it. That's the work. That's the workhorse. That is the
workhorse, isn't it? That is literally, you know, that's the palette of almost every colour.
That's
pretty much. You can approximate everything with a Strat and a humbucker. That's so true.
And when something breaks and when something goes wrong, you just buy a $2 part and fix it, and you're off again.
I might take the humbucker out of my Strat, put a single coil back in, just so I can go out and buy a new Strat with a humbucker already in it.
Yes. Hey, I don't know what's happened to you, but literally, it's like a new man. He's like talking about buying more guitars. Good. There is hope. There is hope that you and I will get to a guitar shop together at some point. And
here's a question: if you had to come along this weekend to do this guitar shopping, what would you have been looking at? What would have you got anything in mind for your next guitar, or are you just kind of?
Well, what would I be looking at? So I've been coveting a new acoustic for a while, and I still kind of am. I mean, having put the new set of strings and things on my beloved acoustic, it's lovely. But a part of me just wants to get a proper grown-up acoustic guitar. That is just something special. So I keep trying, but I've set a very high threshold and a very high benchmark for what will make me part with my cash. So I've been to Guitar Village 2 or 3 times and tried a bunch of different acoustics and haven't quite found the one yet. So I'd do that for a bit. But the good thing is I'm busy with gigging at the moment, and there is a definite correlation between if I'm gigging, then I am too busy thinking about learning songs and arrangements and being a good Boy Scout and band member, getting all my gear and stuff ready for me to spend time coveting what I'm going to purchase. When I'm not gigging, that's where my need to then have something guitar related goes to, what can I go and buy? And then just hang on my wall and never gig. So at the moment, I'm not hankering for anything except there is one, which is, but there is one, there is always one. I'm really digging the whole PRS thing at the moment, I must say. And there's the PRS, Ezra Verde, I think, is the finish, and but it's not necessarily the finish itself. It's the PRS SE 2408. So it's the 24 frets, but it's got this 8 like switching options for the pickups, which really appeals. And the thing that it's always been a bit of a bugbear with me on not just PRSs but any guitars with kind of coil splits or coil taps is when you want to access those single coil type sounds from your two humbucker setup, you have to pull one of the tone pots up.
Yeah.
And I just don't find that as usable a kind of feature on a gigging instrument unless you kind of set it like that at the beginning of a song. But I often find myself within songs, just wanting to switch between, a nice single coil sound for like the rhythm parts of it and then being able to quickly access a humbucker for like a solo or something. So anyway, this PRS SE 2408 has these switching options available as these two little dip switches, little toggle switches on the body, very discreetly placed. So you don't need to be lifting up or pushing down a kind of tone.
Yeah, that's cool.
Knob, which is really cool. But by all accounts, from those that have tried them and have reviewed them, they've said the way the wiring has been done on these, the single coils are really genuinely single coil sounds as opposed to that kind of approximation of a single. Yeah. It's proper single coil sounds and proper humbucker sounds, and it's a PRS with a very pretty, albeit veneered top. So I kind of like the look of that. But yeah, I don't know. I think I would probably be going to find another workhorse guitar.
Right, okay.
Right? I've bought lots of pretty guitars and lots of guitars that I just love, like noodling on at home and are lovely to have as pieces of kind of wall art. But don't get gigged because they're either one-dimensional in what they do, or they're just too precious to me to take out and gig. So I would be looking to get another workhorse guitar where I could just take it out every weekend and appreciate the versatility of it. So something like the Cort Fat 2 stuff that's getting a lot of good airtime and press at the moment.
Beautiful guitars as well.
I think, they're great looking guitars, the roasted maple neck, all the tonal switching options, a good modding platform. I think something like that where I could genuinely just put it to work.
Exactly.
Would be what I'd be looking for. That would be the criteria. Whereas the criteria,
a decent tool.
I'd be looking, you know what I mean? Yeah. Rather than just looking into a guitar shop in that kind of Wayne's World-esque moment where you just look at it and just go, "Oh, it's so beautiful." I just, exactly. It will be mine. Which is, arguably what a lot of my guitar purchases have been based on previously. Which is, well, that just looks really, really stunning. And then, I'll make it play as nicely as it needs to, and I'll figure out how to use it in a gig on some songs or whatever. It'll be does this guitar give me versatility to take it to a gig and know that I've got everything there to make it work for all the different songs in the set list? So yeah, that's it's still going to happen, Mr. Oliver. It is still going to happen this year, where you and I, in anger, are going to get to a guitar shop and we're going to watch each other spend modest sums of cash.
Exactly, and just fight. Who can spend the most? You is the answer.
Well, no. Who can get the most value for money? Who can spend the least?
Crikey, yes, good. That would be a good little challenge. Maybe somebody could sponsor it for us. That'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be. Well, I think after this, Guitar Village should sponsor it for us.
Maybe. It's a good point.
More airtime than anything today.
It's a good point.
And rightly so. It's a great shop.
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. Rightly so. It's such a pleasant experience there. And how can you not have a pleasant experience there? I mean, it's an old listed building that is beautiful, even if it was empty. I think that's the great thing about that place. It's a joy to shop in that building, and some great players there as well. And everyone who worked there is clearly an enthusiast, not just somebody who has a Saturday job or something like that. So yeah, it was a pleasure to go there, and I'm very grateful for it. But anyway, there we go. That's
Mate, I'm so chuffed for you. Yeah. I genuinely am. As much as I'm gutted to have missed the experience, we were in contact via text message, etc. While I was on my romantic weekend with my wife. It was just like, who is it that you're messaging? Who is this other woman? It's Matt, and he's an the guitar shop. It's where I should
living
be right now.
vicariously through me, even though you're on a nice weekend away.
But that picture that you posted it says it all. You look ecstatically happy, and rightly so.
Absolutely.
Two beautiful guitars, mate. I can't wait to hear them at the jam night. And
let's get to the jam in a couple of weeks' time and have some fun. And cool. Mate, well, we're cracking chat. Good to catch up with you after. I mean, we left it too long, but sometimes life gets in the way. People understand that, you know.
They do.
But brilliant,
we'll
buddy.
Be back soon.
We will be back soon. Back for another conversation very soon. And mate, have a cracking week until I see you the next time.
And you, buddy. Take care of yourself. Speak to you soon, mate.
All the best, Chief. I'll speak to you soon.
Bye, Matt.
Ta-da, mate. Thanks so much for listening to this week's podcast. It's really great to be back after a little break. Tell us what you think about Matt's new guitars, my new guitars, in the comments or in Instagram or on Facebook. Come and tell us how your experiences have been buying new guitars, and maybe tell us what new guitars you plan to buy in the future. Looking forward to hearing from you, and looking forward to getting the next show out to you as soon as possible. Until then, have a great week. Take care. Bye.